Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Sorry for taking so long for my next video. I've been working on quite a few things actually that I'm excited to show off. So now the game has an item system, an interaction system, as you can hear, a sound system, and AI and cities are working pretty decently. My initial versions of these things are working great, and I've just been having tons of fun, just generating new cities and then walking around and just watching the NPCs walk around and stuff. I haven't made any robust AI just yet. They just walk from one place to the other, but still, it's very cool, and I just love it. It's just added a level of life to the game that I wasn't really expecting, honestly. But let's get into it. First things first, as you can hear, I have a sound system in place, and it's based off of a sound system that I learned from this YouTuber called Get Amend, right? And essentially, it's allowing me to have some pretty nice little effects, right? So it's not anything too special, it's a sound, but it's added quite a bit to the actual game, which I am enjoying. And I sort of augmented it a little bit so that I can control the actual volume of the actual audio clips and things like that, so that I can control it. For example, when in flight, when actually moving, the volume increases. However, when I stop, you can probably detect that it's actually decreased. Let me stop talking so you can hear that properly. As you can see right there, right? Which I think is pretty cool. And the other nice thing is that other than that sort of sound effect, we have another one as we fly into an actual planet. So let's go ahead and fly to it. Make sure I don't overshoot. That's something that I need to sort of work on to make it feel a little bit better, because it can sometimes be quite easy to overshoot. But now, as we get closer to the planet, we'll hear the new sound effect. Yeah. So now there are sound effects for when you enter and fly through a planet with atmosphere, and when you're actually flying out in space. And I'm very much enjoying this. It feels very nice. I'm surprised at how much just a little bit of audio has improved the feel. Honestly, the feel of just flying around in the sky. It really does feel very cool, and I can't wait until I add other sort of NPCs like birds and other animals and things like that, and introduce sound effects for them. That's going to be very cool too. The idea of just like flying around, and you can just hear the birds just, calling to each other. You might even see bird formations just flying past and things along those lines. So I can't wait to do that. But let's go ahead and jump down, land down, I should say, so we can take a look at the items. Let's just get here. And another sound effect, real quick, is footsteps. There you go. So just a few little sound effects in place. I don't have very much set up just yet. These are more just placeholder sound effects, just testing the system, making sure that everything is working how I expect it to. And honestly, so far it's been working pretty well. So I am very happy about that. But let's go ahead and take a look at the actual items. Currently, I only have placeholder items in place, but essentially the way the item system works is that it is composed of multiple pieces of data, and it actually matches how you would store information inside of a database, where there's a bunch of tables that are related to each other, but the data has been sort of separated a little bit, and all of the related sort of pieces of information are connected to each other by an ID, by an item ID. So if I create a stick, I can go ahead and create additional information for that stick in different tables and then link to each of those tables via the equivalent of a foreign key, right? For those of you that have experience with like SQL and databases in general. But the whole idea is just that I've separated the information into separate sort of sections that I can compose together. And the reason I did that is because each item can hold multiple pieces of information. So, for example, a sword, right? That's going to hold information like its name, its description, maybe some lore information, and then it'll have information like durability and maybe attack damage. It'll also have information like what types of energy compose that weapon. Energy is going to be a very core aspect of the game, especially once I get to the cultivation mechanic. So each element in the game, each item, the terrain, or like the planets, the environment, the atmosphere, everything in the game is going to is going to be composed of combinations of energy. And so I wanted a good way to represent that in items. And so all of these different types of information can get easily composed together to form an item. So currently I just have 4 placeholder items just testing a lot of these aspects out. So if I press I here and just point at the ground, it'll just spawn a random one of those 4 items. So I can see rope, stick, I think that's another stick, and another stick, and another rope. I know there's a torch in there. I believe, let me see, is that a torch? Nope, 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 nope. Nope, nope, nope. Oh, there you go. Torch. There we go. Alright, so here are the 4 sort of core items that I currently have in place. And as you can see, when I walk up to them, a menu item or a menu pops up that allows me to either collect or examine. The examine option I'm going to be removing just because examining just shows, description information, but the description information shows up in that little menu that you're seeing pop up on my screen. So that second button is not going to be necessary. But the menu that you see popping up here, this is actually the interaction system that I've created. And the interaction system is very cool as well, because the way it works is that everything in the world falls under certain interaction types, and I'll be able to easily define interaction groups that relate to those types. So when I highlight over an item, it's looking at the item interaction type and then displaying these 2 options that relate to that interaction type, which is collect and examine. These are the things that you'll be able to do with any item that you find in the world. Right? So regardless of what type of item it is, it's completely irrelevant. It's just going to go ahead, and if it sees it's an item in the world like so, it'll give you the option to either collect or examine. Okay? But let's go over to a piece of wood, because those actually have proper details regarding their energy composition and things like that. But you can see, it might be a little bit hard to see, so let me zoom in first. Let's see. I'll increase the resolution maybe. There we go. You can see, you can't see, there we go. You can see now, hopefully, that the stick, it has a bit of information there, right? It's composed of multiple pieces of information. Each aspect that you see here, so that little icon on the top left, along with the title, as well as its rarity, all of these are pieces of information that are basically composed together. So you have that, and then you have the description information, a fallen branch from a tree, and then a little bit of lore text. It says something like, in the ancient era, the people of this world appreciated the vast variety of applications a simple branch had. Now, that's just a bit of example, like lore text. It probably won't stay there, but that's how currently I have it situated. I'll probably be changing that in the future, almost certainly. Then you also have energy composition, and there's a bit of a space there between overall purity, stability, and then the different energy types, just because I was actually planning on having a sort of energy graph that would show kind of like a radar graph, composition of all the energy types in the actual item. But then I realized that's because the item is the world is going to have multiple energy types. It's not going to work. It's going to have way too many vertices, and it'll just look a little bit strange. It's not going to look good. But you can see instead what I've been doing is I am displaying each energy type as a row where it shows the actual name, so wood key, and a little bit of a sort of a bar that shows its percentage as well as the percentage itself. So it says wood key is 71%, earth key is 18%, and water key is 11%. So this is the composition of this stick, and in the future you're going to be able to use that composition to do certain things, either craft certain items or comprehend aspects of those energies for your cultivation. So things along those lines. Like I said, energy is going to be a very important aspect of the game. Oh, and it's lagging now a little bit because of the 4K resolution. So let's just jump back to that. And I suppose I could leave it at that 1440p and then scale it up a tiny bit. It's just going to look a little bit strange, and it might look a little... Actually, no, it looks fine. But those are the items. That's how the items currently work. They are a composition of multiple pieces of data. And as a matter of fact, actually with the way that I have OBS set up, I don't believe I'd be able to show the code at the moment. But if anybody does want to see the code, how this system works, please let me know, and yeah, I'll make a video showing how I actually created the system, because I'm very proud of it, and I really like the idea. I was planning on doing a more traditional object-oriented approach where you have a parent item class, and then you have derived items, so you have like armor item, weapon item, and so on and so forth. But I wanted to try something else just because it felt like it would be easier to store this item information in the form of tables that I can then just compose together into one final sort of item view, as opposed to potentially creating a item class that will hold information that it may not even use potentially, which is like one of the downsides of inheritance. I generally like inheritance, but there are scenarios in which I would prefer to do something that's a little bit more in line with the goal, right? But I've been circling around all these items and I haven't even used the actual interaction system. So here you go. Let's collect these things here, right? And you can see that they are actually being collected and being removed. Unfortunately, I have not taken the time to create an actual menu for my inventory, which is very silly of me. So I won't be able to prove to you that those items went into my inventory. You'll just have to take my word for it. And maybe in the next video, I'll go ahead and have something that have a menu that, you know, you'll be able to see the items. In the future, I do want to have a different sort of inventory system. Right now, it's a very basic inventory system where it's just like slots, similar to most RPGs. But my idea is to mimic if anybody has ever read things like Martial World or Ancient Godly Monarch, those sorts of stories, in Martial World at least, or no, sorry, Desolate Era, what they have are entire worlds, so entire planets that they sort of store their items in. They store all of their things, and they have their entire estate on these planets that fit in the palm of their hand, basically, you know. So I want to have something like that for this game. I want to make it so that if you find a planet that you like out in the vast universe, you can take that planet and then convert it into an estate world. So that's the plan in the future. For now, I'll just keep it super simple just because I wanted to get something working. But let's go ahead. We've seen the item system, we've heard the sound system, we've seen the interaction system, at least one component of it. let's go ahead and look at the cities now, because the last time I don't believe I even showed any cities. The last time I talked about it, I just showed NPCs and things like that. But I don't think I really showed much about the cities themselves. So let's take a deeper look at them. I'm going to go ahead and toggle my flight, just because another sort of side thing I fixed was being able to flatten terrain. There was a time when I couldn't flatten terrain properly. It wouldn't rotate appropriately, basically. But all that's fixed. So now the terrain is getting flattened. However, sometimes the terrain will be elevated past the player or below the player, so I toggle flight so that I don't accidentally like fall into the world, basically. But let's look at cities. So I'm going to go ahead and generate one now by pressing P. And obviously in the future, the cities will be generated automatically. But here we are. We have an actual city fully generated, which every time I do that, I love it. It looks so cool. I'm so happy with the way this is currently working. The core idea behind it is actually a system that I learned about from this other developer by the name of Code Monkey. He made a YouTube video on creating grids, and this city currently is based off of a grid system, right? So each one of these buildings is placed in the cell on the grid, and what I'm doing is that first I'm using an algorithm called Voronoi, and that's being used to determine where the different districts for this city will lie. So from this angle, it might be a little bit hard to spot, but you can see that those buildings over there are different from these buildings here. Okay, that's because those buildings are part of the residential district versus these buildings, which are part of the commercial district. And you can hear the AI starting to walk in, heading to work, which is also very cool. But I'll talk about that in just a second. Let me go ahead and fly up a little bit so it's easier to see the different districts. And we can see that, yeah, all those buildings over there, those are residential districts as well, or residential buildings, as well as those buildings over here. Those two are two separate residential districts. And then we have this central sort of commercial district here. And so Voronoi will go ahead, I'll provide a set of districts to the algorithm, and it will sort of choose where to place these districts based off of certain rule sets. And then once it's decided the actual district placement, it'll go ahead and create the proper sort of block spacing for the different districts. So commercial districts have a block spacing of I believe it's 5 cells. So each one you can see is a 5 by 5 block versus residential districts, which are 3 by 3. Okay, and then I also have factory or industrial districts, which I believe are 7 by 7, and those will be areas for things like woodworking, sawmills, granaries, places that need a lot of space, to do their work. But each area has its own sort of block size and things along those lines, and then afterwards I just have another system that layers on top of that, figuring out what buildings will go in those cells based off of that district type. So in residential districts, it will have different types of homes. So it might have just regular houses, or it might have hovels. It might have I have like an option for row houses, but I might not keep that just because I think that row houses are more of a modern concept. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think that it'll fit with this idea. But essentially, first is the grid system, right? Then it's the actual layout system that determines where the districts are going to sit, and then finally, it's the system that determines what buildings will go where. And altogether, it just creates a really cool looking cities. And I can have pretty surprisingly big cities, honestly. I think my current upper limit is around 100 meters cubed, but each cell is about 10 meters. So it's in total maybe about, I want to say, a kilometer. And we can see here that the pathfinding is a little bit silly right now, but that's fine. Let's just get these guys out of the wall here, just because they're making me look bad. Let's just go ahead and you could just, there we go. All right, so just ignore the people that are just, you know, walking incorrectly. But that's essentially how the cities work. They're just composed of multiple layers stacked on top of each other to make that work properly. Then I have this nice little road that I created that's just using that underlying grid code to essentially create a single mesh, and then I just texture it with whatever sort of road texture I like. I'm still working on that. I would like for there to be more of a blending with the actual terrain, sort of fading out these corners so it's not so harsh of a cutoff, but that's work for the future. But yeah, that's how the cities work. It's very, very cool. Now, there's one more aspect of the actual interaction system that I haven't shown. I have to actually go into one of these buildings, because not only is there the item interaction type, but there is also a container interaction type. And so if I walk over to this container, I can go ahead and click on open, and yeah, I also have to fix the camera obviously, but I can click on open and you can see that it is showing me all of the items inside of this box. Alright, so now we can see that there are 2 sticks in there, 9 pieces of rope, and some random item that I haven't given it an icon just yet. But it's all working, and it all follows the same core rule of, so long as it finds a thing in the world that is of a particular interaction type, it will go ahead and perform the correct, or collect the correct interaction group. And then at that point, it's just a matter of how do I want to use that interaction group. So I'm just using it by displaying those interaction group options directly to the player. But it's important to sort of make that distinction, because I've created interaction groups for the NPCs. I currently have them disabled, but each NPC can also interact with containers and interact with items on the ground. If I were to drop an item, actually I wonder if it will pick it up. Let me see. Let me put item down over there and see if he picks it up. Yeah, I do have it disabled, so they won't pick it up just yet. But they do have the capacity to do so, which is very cool. So really, it's a very cool little system that I have in place there, and it's very easy for me to create these sorts of systems that I can then plug into wherever I need it. Also, I'm not gonna lie, I like it when I create these cities and then I just have a really nice backdrops in the background. It looks very cool, like all those mountains over there in the distance, right? So I just love that. It's unfortunate that my NPCs are acting kind of stupid, so they're kind of messing with the silhouette a little bit. But hey, it's fine. You know, early days, early days. This game isn't pre-alpha for nothing. Well, let me just get him moving there. But yeah, that's how my cities work. The AI, actually I did want to talk about the AI. The AI is based off of the goal-oriented action planning system. So that's another system that I learned from Git Amend, where essentially you set up a series of beliefs, which are just things that the NPCs, or whatever you attach the GOAP system to, these are a series of sort of beliefs that the NPCs know to be true or false about the world around them. Then you create a set of actions that allow you to potentially change those beliefs, change the state of those beliefs. So, for example, if you give the NPC the action of walk towards player, they may have a belief that says, oh, are they close to the player or not, right? Are they within 3 meters of the player or not? And based off of those beliefs, you then have a set of goals which collect actions that allow you to complete certain beliefs. right? So based off of whatever belief you specify in the goal itself will go ahead and, well, actually, it's going to be an action planner. It's going to go ahead and collect a series of actions that will effectively allow you to change the states of all of those beliefs to true. In other words, performing a set of actions that will complete those beliefs, or set those beliefs to true. And honestly, it took me a little while to like comprehend, like get my mind around the idea behind that, and I'm still sort of digesting the possibilities of this type of system. And as you can see, although this has more to do with pathfinding, which is actually a separate aspect of the AI system, and the fact that I use origin shifting and things along those lines, so it kind of messes things up sometimes when I do things like, fly off and then come back in. So that's them walking around like that has more to do with that, not so much with the GOP system. But I can see a lot of possibilities with that system, and I can't wait to create more robust AI, fix this pathfinding issue, and yeah, have like a fully featured um, city where I can have, for example, NPCs walking not only to work, but maybe at certain times of day they will walk to some form of entertainment, like a tavern or an inn or anything like that, to go drink, right? Or you might have children that early in the morning they'll go to school. And then they'll leave school and go and play with friends, or go and walk around the city, things along those lines. I'm also going to have a variety of different cities, right? Of different sized cities with different number of districts, things along those lines. I have a core idea of villages will be relatively smaller, and they will primarily be residential districts, so not really very many commercial districts in villages. But then you'll have towns, which will be a combination of commercial or rather residential and commercial. And finally, you'll have full-blown cities, which will be a combination of commercial, residential, wealthy. In villages, you may even have industrial districts, just because you may have granaries and sawmills and things like that in smaller villages. But in cities, you'll have commercial, industrial, wealthy, residential, all sorts of stuff. And my final goal, or not final, but like one of my core goals, is to create a more complex network of cities, villages, and towns, where you have a major city that has a bunch of smaller towns surrounding it, and then the smaller towns may have smaller villages surrounding them. And that's going to be very cool, because then I can design more AI packages that will have the AI of one city go to the neighboring villages or to the neighboring towns, and especially for traveling merchants, a traveling merchant package where you will see them just leave and head off to the different cities and towns to sell their wares, or get items from different villages that they might bring back to the city, things along those lines. So, both this city system as well as that goal-oriented action planning are going to facilitate that very nicely. I want to first make sure that this is well polished, because as you can see, the NPCs are, for as smart as they are, they're kind of stupid. So, I'm going to go ahead and get that working. Make sure that these guys no longer just crash into everything, as this guy is planning on doing. I'd like to know, I think I know what's causing that, but I'm going to have to go into the code and make sure. But yeah, that's how the cities work. That's how the goal-oriented action planning system works. It's very cool. I love seeing all of this working. I like being able to walk into one of these buildings and just look out the window and see the NPCs just doing their thing. I'm sorry, I've been having tons of fun. This is just, it's awesome. I've been working on this game for 5 years, and it's only been recently that I've started to see this level of progress. So I've just been enjoying this a lot. So yeah, that's about it for this devlog. I kind of feel like I didn't really go over very much, but yeah, as you can see, there is quite a lot compared to the last time, and hopefully the next video I'll have these systems, the city, as well as the NPC pathfinding and movement and things like that, a little bit more polished, better polished. I have to sort of take into account the fact that origin shifting is going to mess with the pathing a little bit, and then just tweak that accordingly. But yeah, I hope to have that fixed, and next video just have a lot more just well polished. My next goals are to start working on the cultivation system proper, so make sure to actually have a full-blown system, or at least the basics of it in place, so I can do things like, off the top of my head, I may want to absorb the energy off of certain items. There's also going to be a comprehension system that's going to be pivotal to your foundations and your cultivation level. A foundation system as well, where a low foundation at a cultivation realm, if you try to ascend to a new realm with a low foundation or a weak foundation, it can cause instability and maybe even cause your cultivation realm to descend a level, things along those lines. So those are some of the ideas that I have in mind, and I'm just sort of planning things out and getting ready to work on that. But that is it from me today. I'm glad that I finally have like something nice that I can show off, because yeah, it's been a while, and I really wanted to have something cool to actually display before I made a new video. But that's it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Take it easy. I'm just gonna be over here just, walking around, watching all the stupid AI just, be, well, stupid. Later, everybody.